Today on our show, Kevin is off doing Kevin shit in the world. So today it's me and a special guest to break down all the news out of Star Wars Celebration Orlando. So come on back. Hey everybody, today is Fat Man on Batman. I am your host, Marc Bernardin. Next to me, special guest, David Collins, Star Wars expert who was on scene, on the site, down and dirty in Orlando. Got all of the fucking shit to tell us, everything that happened, everything that we missed, everything we couldn't see from the internets. So tell me, is this how many celebrations was this for you?
I don't even know the number at this point, but as a host, it's been 10 years.
Wow.
And actually before that, I was working at Lucas and I was working on a bunch of Star Wars video games, and I was demoing those at celebrations before that. So probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 of these things. Just talking about Star Wars, and I will say that they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, Lucasfilm himself said that this one broke all the records with over 70,000 people in attendance over 4 days, all for one franchise.
That's nuts.
And it was massive. And they really brought out all the big guns for this one. There was kind of no stone left unturned, especially for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. They just had, everybody there. You saw the footage, right?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's nuts. Okay, so before we get into all of the awesome that happened, tell me about your beginnings with Star Wars. Where did it begin for you? Where was the first time you remember seeing it? What was your first reaction to it? Which movie was it?
Right. Yeah, it's funny because Star Wars for me, I'm of that age where, it came out when I was 2. So I don't even remember the first one, but I knew what Star Wars was before I had memory of seeing it. So it's just always been, and it was kind of a reality for me as a kid. In fact, when I found out about NASA and I found out there was no sound in space, I was like, well, that's lame. You got X-Wings and TIE fighters. What the hell, So it's just always been a part of my life, and I was seeing it as a kid. But I started working at Lucasfilm. When they all started coming back in the 90s, I was getting obsessed with them as a college student again. I was reading the books and just really geeking out with my friends, playing all the games. Started as an intern right out of college at Skywalker Ranch, and then started working on, and literally, worked on dozens of Star Wars video games. And then eventually got into hosting and voiceover, and I've done, the movies and video games and stuff as a voiceover artist. And I've been hosting Star Wars Celebration just because it's my first love, and I love it, so much. It's, I love a lot of different franchises. Love Batman, but Star Wars is where I live, And so I'm lucky enough for them to keep bringing me back to be there.
That's awesome. Now, for the kids at home, how does one score an internship at Skywalker Ranch?
Great question, because I highly recommend it. If you can do this, I highly recommend it. No, I just was really focused on what I wanted to do, and this was kind of early internet days. In fact, I actually had to snail mail, printed out letters of recommendations and essay questions, and I had to have stamps, and I got resume paper. 90s.
Wow.
That was, I was going on their website and found that stuff, and I just really, really got lucky. There's a whole convergence of shit that has to happen, to quote Tom Kane, a voice actor, that, in order for you to have a career doing this. And I got really lucky, but I just also pushed and pushed and pushed. But it's a great way for people to get their foot in the door, and it's a great way for companies to check you out in a kind of, I hate to say non-committal, but in a trial period, right?
Right. We're kind of almost maybe not really paying you any real money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you fuck up, it's not like for real investment and fucked up. You just say, oh, well, the intern did it.
But you can turn that nugget on your resume into something awesome, because now you've got Lucasfilm on your resume or wherever you decide to intern. And that's really the important part, even if they didn't hire you on. In fact, I was at Skywalker Sound for an internship for a year, and they didn't have anything for me. But the games division did, right? So you just kind of walk through whatever door opens for you, right? So
That's awesome. And so, like you said, this has been at least 10 celebrations, maybe more, as a professional person.
Yeah.
How many as a fan?
I've actually, I feel like, I've been to all of them as a fan, Marc. I've been a fan of every single one of them. But no, I've always been working them, and I try and see as much as I can, but I didn't have the money or resources when the first 2 happened, and so the third one, I was already an employee, so I've always been there in some sort of official capacity. But I always make time to see the show floor, and it's like having a front row seat to things that you want to see anyway.
Right.
And if you can kind of communicate that enthusiasm and just be an amplifier for the people in the audience, because people are going nuts. It's really is front row access to all the new Star Wars stuff.
Now, what I understand this is a little bit like asking what your favorite kid is.
Right.
What's the best thing you saw this year? Not on the stage, not on a screen, but just like being in the floor, being in the zone. What's the coolest thing you saw?
Man, it really is hard. I can name a couple things. There was a guy walking around in Jedi robes with an oboe that called himself Oboe One. And he was just like playing all the John Williams stuff. Like he would play Leia Steve and he'd be like, da da dee da. You know, that was pretty cool. I mean, I saw this like Snow White Wookiee costume. I saw people who were dressed not as Princess Leia, but the Princess Leia or Obi-Wan old Kenner action figure with their arms stiff and they were walking like this. You know, it's that kind of, there's just tons of creative stuff. But, you know, families, little kids. I had 4 nieces at the show. They all dressed up as Princess Leia, and then they went to this heroines panel, and they saw Daisy Ridley, 20 feet in front of them.
That's awesome.
The coolest thing that I saw there, though, well, I don't know. Do you want to get into it?
Tell me.
I got to see John Williams do a full symphony orchestra during the 40th anniversary, and nobody knew he was coming.
Shut up.
Nobody knew he was coming.
I've been a journalist until this year for about 25 years or so.
Yeah.
And almost every place I've worked, I've tried to get somebody to score a John Williams interview, and it is the hardest fucking thing to do. Like, I can get people in a room with Brad Pitt, I can get people in a room with George Clooney, I can get people in a room with both of them together in a hot tub, but getting an interview with John Williams is like the fucking holy grail.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work the red carpet live stream for The Force Awakens, and he was there, and I said, no matter what happens, I said to the producer, can I please try and get an interview with John Williams? And he was very gracious and said, I'm not doing any interviews tonight. You know, very modest, from everything I understand, because I can't interview the guy, really modest guy, and you know, very hard to get an interview for sure, but he was there.
Yeah, one of the coolest pieces of memorabilia I've ever seen. In a room filled with cool memorabilia, I was interviewing Damon Lindelof for something, and he had like, it's like, yeah, there's the fucking hatch from Lost there, there's a shelf full of Emmys, but then against the wall was original sheet music for the Imperial March. Oh. And I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you for having something so goddamn
handwritten?
Cool. I don't think it was handwritten.
Just printed out like score
just
parts
printed, like,
from the session.
Yeah, and like signed by John Williams and some other letter from Lucas. And I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Wow.
So tell me about the other bold-faced names who showed up to Celebration this year.
George Lucas showed up. You know, and in an era of Disney, to see George Lucas show up and be present for the 40th anniversary, standing with Kathleen Kennedy, and then Harrison Ford showed up, and they kept all this. I mean, this didn't leak at all.
Wow.
You know, how do you get all those people to the Orlando Convention Center, like even through the door? I just don't get it. But they were all there. Hayden Christensen from the prequels was there.
Which is bananas.
That was like, well, this was his first one in 15 years, you know.
Wow.
And, you know, if you're, you know, say what you want about the prequels, but, you know, people grew up with those things, and there's mad love for those, and it's rare. So when they announced that he was coming, because they announced it ahead of time, people went nuts. And his autograph line was sold out, and, I mean, people went crazy. One of the best things, one of the interviews from the Star Wars show asked him a bunch of questions and said, I finally want to ask you this one question. How do you feel about sand? And I just heard about that. I haven't even seen it yet. I have to check out the live stream, and I'm just like, oh man, the balls. That's so good. It's so good. I love it. But he was like a really great sport, and you know, I actually was standing next to him with my kid when John Williams was playing, and he was just like, just grinning ear to ear, you know, at the 40th anniversary.
I love that he's sanguine about it all. I love that he's, you know, like there's the version of that where he's an asshole about it.
Yeah.
And internalized all of the drubbing that have come his way because of the prequels.
Yeah.
And as a result is shitty to the fans because of it.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear that he's just like, you know what, I'm a fan too. Like I made these movies, I love these movies. They changed my life in fundamental ways, and why would I abuse anybody of their love for it too?
Yeah, he was super cool. Super cool. Yeah, you're right. It's always great to see that. Could very easily get the opposite.
That's awesome. And did I see that Billy D. Williams was there?
Oh yeah, Billy D was there. He was there for the 40th anniversary panel. Yeah.
Fucking
Billy D was there. You know, it was. I mean, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Billy D and Warwick Davis, who was another one of the hosts. They were all on stage together with George Lucas and Kathy Kennedy, and then John Williams came out, and Hayden Christensen was on stage, and the Emperor Ian McDiarmid. I mean, they were all there. Plus all the ILM guys and the Skywalker Sound guys and the behind the scenes guys and like the
that's
old school
astounding.
Rebel pilots were all there signing autographs. I did a panel with all of them, you know. So it was really cool, you know. Especially talking to some of these older guys who like were in the first movie and then suddenly their phone rings like, hey, can you come do a bit of looping? And they don't know why, and they show up, and they're in Rogue One. And they have no idea, right? Angus McGinnis was like, I didn't know what it was for. And then, you know, I went and saw the movie, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I had no idea, you know. That was really, really fun to talk about that stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of people there. I mean, Star Wars lived there for 4 days. It really did. The whole Star Wars universe was all there. They were all there. Lucasfilm was probably a ghost town at the time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I love... It's a concentrated version of the thing that I love at ComicCon, which is, and I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but the fact that I've been now to 15 or 16 ComicCons in a row, and I've never been to a gathering of that many people in the same place that did not in some way involve violence. Like if you go to a football game, if you go to a baseball game, if you go to a rally, if you go to a march, like there's always something that goes wrong. When there's that much passion involved, like 9 times out of 10, like I can on one hand count the 2 times that I've heard of somebody getting hurt in an altercation at Comic-Con.
Right.
And then you concentrate that about one fucking piece of IP, one giant halcyon globe of wonder of pop culture. Yeah. It's just a beautiful thing to see. It really is.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, when you get that many people together and everyone it's because they're all happy. Yeah. For the most part. I mean, people were camping out all night waiting for wristbands, right? The Last Jedi director, Rian Johnson, like showed up in the middle of the night and just said hello to everybody that was camping out and just sat there until everyone who wanted an autograph or a selfie got one.
That's awesome.
That's that kind of goodwill is really cool, you know. And in the past, they brought pizza, like J.J. Abrams brought pizza to everybody. You know, it's the Hall H stuff, right? But yeah, the demand was crazy this year. But it was really cool.
But it's the care and feeding of a fan base, and that's why they keep coming back.
That's right. A lot more on the horizon, too.
For sure. All right, so let's talk about some of the news that broke. I suppose the biggest, shiniest thing was the the Last Jedi teaser. Yep. How did it play in the room?
It was like just the floor shaking, you know. I mean, everyone knew there'd be a trailer, right? It was huge, you know, the subwoofer was like pounding. I mean, it's so loud and it's so big and it's on this beautiful digital screen. And, you know, the room that I was in was 3,100 plus seats. So you had over 3,000 fans that are just kind of going nuts for this thing. And it's being simul-streamed into the other theater, which is also about the same capacity, you know, and then another theater plus on the web. So like you could just feel like, you know, the energy in the room was just crazy. You know? Was
there a tremor in the force?
There was. There was a disturbance in the force. Yes, as if 1,000 voices cried out in absolute joy. No, it was cool. Like, I mean, the trailer played really, really well, and of course they rolled it again. And then we started rolling it all weekend, like closing ceremonies. Yeah. You know, but to be
Hello,
there,
Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the panel is canceled, so we're just going to play the teaser trailer about 50 times for the hour.
Would that be okay?
Is everyone fine with that? Yes, they're fine with that. But yeah, it was like to be in the actual room where it debuted with the cast on stage and the director and you know, cast members returning, new cast members, all of that. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin gave his thoughts on the Last Jedi teaser on Facebook Live. But, you know, for me, it's a teaser. Like, it does what a teaser is supposed to do, which is not give me any story. I don't want story from a teaser. Like, all I kind of want are, like, incidental pops of joy, kind of strung together by music I recognize, and characters that I remember a little, like, oh, that's right, he got fucked up, and that's, okay, and she's here, and, like, it's basically last week on Star Wars is what a teaser kind of ought to be, with a little bit of, like, oh, here's some new shit that I hadn't seen before, but reset the table for me.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because in Anaheim at Celebration, it wasn't a teaser. It was like a bigger story trailer. And that was the one with Han Solo saying, Chewie, we're home. You know, that whole thing. And that was like, I mean, you want to see grown men just shedding tears.
I was there.
You were in the room? I mean, it was just when he said we're home and just like, that's, you know. So, but this was a teaser, right? Because we had gotten the teaser for Force Awakens at Thanksgiving, you know, around that time in November in 2014. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but this was like you said, it was just a teaser.
Yeah.
So there's so much more to come that we haven't even seen. This was just like a little
Totally.
taste.
Like, and I'd seen some criticism online about people like, what? This didn't give me anything that I wanted. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes you're not supposed to get what you want.
Yeah.
Like, and that's fine. Like, that's how you build anticipation, by not giving a person what they want.
Yeah.
It's called tension and drama.
It's not enough. Spoilers. Like,
Yeah.
you got to find that balance, like, or pick one,
Yeah, like give me things that I haven't seen before, and then prickle the little nostalgia zone in the back of my head,
Yeah.
and I'm totally fine with it. I don't need more than that.
Yeah, I mean, that helicopter shot or whatever it was of Rey just way out in the distance with the lightsaber, and man, there's so much cool stuff in that trailer. I mean, you
Yeah.
can. I know people are already going through and freeze framing it and just like picking it apart.
I mean, the internet did what the internet does, which
Yep.
was like, here's 500 high-res clips, like snippets from a 2-minute trailer.
Yeah.
And what does everything mean? What is that? What's that supposed to be? That's
Yeah.
books in a tree. What's the tree? Is it the Journal of Wills? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, you know what?
Yeah.
We can ask those questions, and we can probably come up with, I guess, fundamentally subjective answers to those questions. But I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't answer them. I don't need answers yet.
Yeah, it's like, is Luke wearing a Jedi robe, or is that, it's kind of to his knees? Is that more like a Patagonia jacket? Like, what is that? Because what's going on there,
It's a bathrobe.
Well, this is the thing that always happens with Star Wars movies, too, is like, a new Star Wars movie, I actually did a panel on Rogue One, a music panel, and, there's this thing that happens where you kind of have this fear. Everyone has this, I feel like it's natural, where you love something so much that you can strangle it because you get a new piece of it, and you become protective in a weird way, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I like this. I think do I like this? I think I kind of do. I don't know. Oh, it's good. Oh, this is good. Oh, I like this. Okay. All right. Hey. Oh, that was badass. Oh, this is really good. Okay, cool. Except for this one thing they did. Yeah. Did that bother you too? Yeah, it bothered me too. Yeah. Oh, and then this just this thing is just really bugging me. That was not the right choice. They should have done this. Let's go to coffee and talk about this. Actually, you know what? This is bullshit. I can't believe they did that thing. I can't believe you're going to see it again. Yeah, like 2 more times tonight. But it doesn't. Like, and people are still obsessing over it. And then fast forward like 10 years later, and they're like, that's the best one.
Yeah.
That's the best movie of all of them.
I mean, that is just that's the fan cycle of life.
That's
right?
that is the circle of life.
That's
yes.
just how it works, and
Yeah.
I am as guilty of that as anybody,
Yeah.
because it's what we do. It's how we live. It's the joy we get out of this stuff is overanalyzing to the point of exhaustion and then surrendering to it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm totally fine with that. That is
Yeah.
how I live my life: overanalyzation and surrender.
It's part of the fun of it, honestly,
Yeah.
is like endlessly talking about it. We brought up the prequels before. I will tell you, there's not a movie that I have spoken about more than The Phantom Menace.
Wow.
That we have talked about more, for better or for worse. I mean, it is such, it is a gift just in terms of something for geeks like us to talk about, at Denny's. Like, I mean, this is, give us The Phantom Menace and we will pick it apart, right? Like, this, even when you love something or you are passionately, even if you hate something, it's still, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, like, and we in the Fat Cave, like to come at things with a place of love. Like, I go into every movie wanting it to be good.
Oh, yeah.
Because life would be a shit show if you wanted things to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to complain about shit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just, please be awesome. Just surrender. Just fucking pummel me with awesome.
Yeah. Well, if it isn't obvious, like I am a prequel defender only in that George Lucas is my hero, and those movies are not for everyone, but they are magical in very specific ways, and I do come at them with love too. But yeah, they're great. They're great topics of conversation. I love Star Wars, but I try not to have blinders on, but at the same time, it's hard not to love something like a pod race or Episode 3, which I think is just a brilliant movie. 2 Jedi fighting with lightsabers in a volcano. Pretty cool.
I mean,
and maybe I'll get hate for it, but whatever.
It's all right.
Come on, guys.
Let it just roll off your
That's
D-back.
right.
Everything's
That's right.
fine. Okay, so also out of celebration, we learned that Carrie Fisher will not, as had been previously reported by her brother, appearing in Episode 9.
Right.
Although it did apparently, her passing sparked a massive overhaul of what Episode 9 was going to be.
Right. I can't see how it wouldn't anytime a core cast member, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even insurance and all that. I mean, there's all kinds of contingencies in production when you have a plan. You work years in advance. You have to etch everything. I mean, Lucasfilm's got a story group that just does, you know this very, very well, right? So that, the story group had to jump into action, I'm sure, and change a whole bunch of stuff. What that is, we'll never know. But I do remember there being an announcement from Lucasfilm, squashing the rumor that they would do sort of a digital Leia like they did for Rogue One. And the digital Leia was something that they showed her and got her approval for, and then gave her special thanks, at the end of the credits. So, but yeah, they dispelled that rumor, but obviously she's in episode 8. She looks gorgeous in episode 8.
I know. I super dug there's the one shot of her in the teaser where she's just backlit and she's against and she's got the hair that looks like Vader helmety.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Mirrors.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's actually, I didn't even think about that. That's really true. And now I'm thinking, if you go back and watch the panel, which is online, there's a still of Rian Johnson directing her, and you can see where the camera setup is that was in that trailer shot. And you can see her face really, really clearly in that still, and she looks amazing. Like, just so regal and
It's awesome. It's awesome. And it's
and
you know for sure that the plan was always going to be that she would play an integral part in 9.
Yeah.
Because you don't reintroduce Luke and Leia and not have their story come to some natural conclusion in the last episode of this 9-part saga. Granted, there will be a Star Wars 43 at some point because Disney and Lucasfilm are never going to leave that money on the table.
Yeah.
But this chunk that we can still sort of say that Lucas had envisioned all along was going to be the story of the Skywalker family, and she's as integral a part of that family as anybody is.
Yeah. That's so.
C'est la vie. But new characters have showed up.
Yeah, that's true.
Welcome to the segue, everybody. Rose, played by an actress named Kelly Marie Tran.
Rose! I need you to swim! Jack, no, wait, Jack, Rose, Jack! Take a shot every single time. It will not last 2 reels of that movie. At least once the ship starts sinking. Sorry, Jack and Rose. Sorry, you were saying.
It's all good, good. Quotes from her from the stage where my character's name is Rose, as we just established. She's a part of the Resistance, and she works in maintenance. So Garbage Lady is going to save the universe, which awesome. I can't wait for you to meet her. According to Rian Johnson, Rose's low rank in the Resistance is part of her appeal. This possibility that any of us could step up and become a hero, that's where Rose comes from. What was, did you get a chance to meet her at all?
I did not. I was there in the room for that panel, which was hosted by Josh Gad, which, by the way, was hilarious. He's like, so now that I've got you here, Daisy Ridley, is Rey a Skywalker? Is Rey a Kenobi? It's like me saying, hi, my whole name is Josh. You know what I mean? Nice to meet you. It was like that kind of thing, but just got nowhere with Daisy Ridley. But all we got from Kelly Marie Tran was an introduction of her, a production still of what her character looked like, and that description.
That's it.
And that was pretty much it. But
mysteries.
This idea that she plays they said something about her playing a very key role in the adventure, that she ends up, kind of almost mistakenly, perhaps, maybe I'm reading into this, ends up on some kind of adventure with the rest of the crew, but I'm not really sure. The picture, she looked really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just now hoping that there's another trash compactor scene. Now that we have a maintenance worker on the team.
Well, Finn was also, he has that line, and Harrison Ford's like, sanitation. That's not how the Force works. So there's a lot of maintenance heroes. There's
a lot of custodial engineers.
I don't know, but it's really cool, the idea that anyone, that heroes come from everywhere. That's the whole core of Star Wars. You know, you can be, you can be a farmhand, orphan raised by your aunt and uncle, and you can save the galaxy. Like, that's the whole idea. So I'm curious to see where they're going to go with that, and kind of excited that the second installment has this whole new character that we know nothing about.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And a female character to boot, which, and as we've come to sort of behold what the Star Wars universe means to people, it means an incredible amount to young women and old women and middle-aged women and girls.
I have a friend who I've known for about 30 years, and we reconnected recently because I knew her when I was a kid. And I reconnected with her through Star Wars, not even realizing it was her, just being part of the fan community and Twitter or whatever. And I suddenly realized it was her, and we surprised each other. It was one of those, and she's a little older than I am. And I mentioned that my nieces were there, and one day they were all dressed as Leia, but another day they were all Ewoks, and a Yoda, right? So she saw them, and she just was like, you have no idea how this makes me feel. Because when I was growing up, all they had were T-shirts for boys, and it was weird because when we reconnected, I said I had no idea you were a Star Wars fan because this was back in the 80s when, I was little and whatever. But she's like, well, I didn't talk about it back then because I didn't feel like I could. And, we didn't have the internet, so it's not like we could, connect with people. And now it's just, her universe, everything that Ashley Eckstein's done, the costuming, the characters, it really, and it should be like, Star Wars is truly for everybody, and that's really neat to see it in person too. When you see the whole family all going together and they all have a character that they're gravitating towards, that heroes come in all shapes and sizes and different species and stuff like that. That's just, it's badass.
Totally.
And I think that's what makes, people have that sort of sense of love over the weekend, No one's breaking out in fisticuffs or anything.
Yeah, and like Lucasfilm was leaning into that in a big way with the Forces of Destiny.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
I got to see. Is that episode online? Was there an episode? They showed one.
Did they? I don't think they put one up.
Yeah, they showed one in the Heroines panel. They showed one with Rey, and it was really cool. Like classic kind of 2D looking animation.
That's awesome. And
Daisy Ridley, I think, was doing the voice and all the classic sounds. And,
yeah, it's a series of YouTube shorts and a 2-part Disney Channel event. Like they're actually going to put this stuff on the television. And it's all focused on the female heroes of Star Wars. So it's Princess Leia, Rey, Jyn Erso, Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, and they're narrated by Maz Kanata. She's sort of she's stitching all of these stories together. And yeah, they got Daisy Ridley, they got Felicity Jones, Lupita Nyong'o. They're all reprising their roles. Yeah. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. I couldn't be there at that panel, but I was there in tech rehearsal and got to watch the rundown and just like, oh my God, this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Even obviously they're YouTube shorts, but like more content, please. Just give us more. And it's nice to be able to do this kind of like, it's not like a series with a narrative that goes through episode to episode. Instead, you can go back and not have to worry about continuity between, say Jyn Erso and Padme, or Rey and Leia. You can just kind of have these little micro adventures and watch something awesome for a few minutes.
And, just like give me an anthology Star Wars show.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Why isn't it an anthology everything show?
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
I would just drop in absolutely for like 4, 5, 10-minute adventures on characters and worlds that I love. Like, why the fuck not?
Yeah, go back to the way original Star Trek was or Twilight Zone was. Have full self-contained little Star Wars episodes that you don't have to have these sort of like narratives. Those are satisfying in a totally different way, but you can have both. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
I'd be into that.
So as we're seeing Force of Destiny sort of take its place in the stage, we are also going to be seeing the end of Star Wars Rebels. The 4th season upcoming will be its last.
I hosted that panel.
Oh,
so I was on stage with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Dave Filoni and all the really talented voice actors, and I knew that he was going to make that announcement. But it's really interesting because he made it pretty clear that this was about sort of ending things on their own terms and being true to Star Wars, because the closer they get to A New Hope, the more they're kind of flirting with that continuity a little bit, and so imagine what you can do in a 4th season when you know it's your last. Suddenly you don't have the Clone Wars problem or the Buffy problem or countless the Firefly problem, countless shows that just never got to. Well, Firefly got a movie, that was awesome, but it got to wrap themselves up, and in a way, Rebels has incorporated so many Clone Wars characters. Darth Maul and Rex and Ahsoka and all that saying, all right, this is the end. What a great creative, what a great creative choice that is. Yeah. And I'm sure, Dave Filoni is so talented, and they've got a whole crew up at Lucasfilm Animation. There's so much muscle there to make something great that, I'm sure that we can expect great things beyond Rebels. But
yeah, that was the vibe that I got just looking at some of the content was this was not the last time Dave would be doing a Star Wars animated project.
No. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but I just couldn't see that. Yeah, that guy was George's Padawan. He fully got the download.
Wow.
I remember even as early as 2010, I was walking with him through rehearsals, and he'd pick up his cell phone, and he's talking, and they started doing show notes, and he was like, "It's George." I'm serious, and I was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Yeah, I wonder if what people think if they do. I had George Lucas on my cell phone right now." But he did. He was working with him every week, and can be sort of a real continuation of that legacy.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, he's too valuable to go anywhere.
Fantastic. And tell me about the Battlefront 2 stuff that you saw.
Oh my God, the room just like screamed. You know, the video game crowd came out, and I love Battlefront. I worked on Battlefront a little bit, and of course I worked on the originals in my LucasArts days, and you know, there's a really strong legacy there of multiplayer. There was some single player in the originals, but the big news for this one is that they're telling an original story that takes place right at the end of Return of the Jedi. And what's cool about it is that they're telling the story from an Imperial point of view. That if there's this character named Iden Versio, and she grew up on a planet that was under peaceful Imperial reign. Like they liked this, you know, they had a good economy and everything was like clean, and you know, and imagine growing up thinking the Empire are the good guys. Yeah. And she grew up in a military family, and she was part of the Empire. And you know, of course, they're making it from a soldier's perspective that can fly in vehicles and can also do, you know, ground assaults and things like that. You know, an Inferno squad. So like they're telling this single player story. You know, all the motion captures out. You know, the actress was sitting in the front row. And was super emotional when, you know, she got a call out from the team and everything, and everyone cheered. But like they're going for it, you know. And plus they're bringing in all the characters from all eras into multiplayer. So like there's 3 studios working on it from what I can, you know, from what I got from them. You know, there's Criterion and Motive and EA Dice. Like it's a worldwide thing, and they're just making this enormous sequel to Battlefront. So yeah, I mean that was a really big reveal. You know,
That's awesome.
I was really happy for those guys because, you know, game development, they work their asses off. And
years and years and years.
Yeah, years and years and years for sure. So that should be pretty amazing, and it comes out this fall. That's before
awesome.
The Last Jedi. So
Okay, so with Star Wars Celebration Orlando behind us, when do we think we're going to get the next pop of Star Wars awesome? And what do you think it's going to be? Is it ComicCon? Do we get...
That's a good question. Wow, if I had to guess, let's see. We've got the movie coming out in December. I think Comic-Con's a pretty fair guess. We know that there's not a celebration next year.
Right.
And we've got a movie coming out in December. We've got another movie, the Han Solo movie, coming out in May of 2018.
And when is D23?
D23 is this summer, right? So D23 could be another one.
The week
before Comic-Con?
I think so.
It might be D23.
Right.
It might be D23. You know, I also did a Disney Parks panel, you know, all about the big Star Wars expansion they're doing at Disneyland and Disney World. And they hinted at D23 being the next time they're going to say something.
Gotcha.
And it makes sense. You know, D23 is growing, and it seems like they're just putting more and more into it to make it cooler and cooler all the time. So I would guess this summer, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know?
And do we think it's young Han Solo, something or something?
If I had to guess based on the patterns, I don't think they're going to. Well, no, they have to, don't they? They can't promote young Han Solo in 5 months. They have to do a teaser for that before Last Jedi's out. Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, I think you could do a teaser at Comic-Con or D23. You can pick them.
Right.
You can do a full trailer if you want to wait as long as Thor Ragnarok. Like that feels like it's a pretty good birth.
Yeah.
For some giant fucking Disney Marvel jammy jam, and then you start it, you know, in earnest next February, March.
Right.
And then you hit it hard. But I think that feels like it's a decent ramp up, taking advantage of all of these births that they have to attach stuff to.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just know the Hall H crowd would go fucking nuts if you see, you know, young Han and young Lando and the Millennium Falcon.
Oh yeah, just totally.
Nothing but tears and.
So you actually think we'll get a teaser for that before we get another Last Jedi story trailer?
I think so.
Yeah, because I guess you have to overlap them. They do have to kind of do this, don't they?
Like they're coming up so close to each other. You can butt them up, or you could get a story trailer at D23, and you can get the Han Solo trailer at Comic-Con.
True.
If you wanted to.
True.
If you were Disney and you wanted to.
Yeah. If you wanted to grace us with more Star Wars, which is always fine. Yeah.
Yes, we'll happily take all.
Take all the wars, not just one.
Not just one.
Yeah.
So what is next for you? What do you got on the horizon?
Next for me, well, let's see. In terms of Star Wars, you know, my big thing this year. If I'm lucky enough to be asked back for the premiere, I'll do that. You know, I was lucky enough to do some voiceover in the last couple movies. Who knows? I always treat every time I get to do something with Star Wars as potentially the last time, because there's so many talented people out there, you know, that all want to be in it. But you know, in terms of Star Wars, I'm hoping that, you know, something with The Last Jedi will, you know, I'll try and stay involved if I'm good.
Very cool.
And then, yeah, I mean, for me as a voice actor, I just had Voltron season 2 come out. I played a character in that. I had some anime come out last year. It's a series called One Punch Man that I did. And still just writing music, mixing a bunch of trailers. It's what I do. In terms of hosting, I don't know. I mean, I literally got back from Orlando yesterday, so I'm a little tongue-tied, to be honest with you. Isn't that enough, you
What more do you
bloodsuckers?
need?
No, I'm just kidding. I would do it every weekend if I could. My body would fall apart, but I mean, it was really, really fun. I was sad that it was over. My feet were not, but I was having that post-show blues. So
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. It's helping.
Every year I go to ComicCon, my brain still feels like it's the first year.
Yeah.
So my brain is still at like 28 years old, but my spine and my knees are 45 and my back is like, oh, you wanted to move. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Back fuse is solid, knees turn to powder. I'm like, oh, that's right. You can't do this like you did at 28 at all.
I know.
Nice tried, body.
I know. Yeah, I'm still 18 up here. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm just kind of happy to see what unfolds next with Star Wars, and I kind of like not knowing at this point awesome. Because it's still exciting after all this time, and I hope that excitement continues forever with that brand because it's my first love.
That's awesome. Yeah. So where can people find you on the internet?
Probably the easiest place is at Twitter. Go to @Twitter. @David W. Collins on Twitter or Instagram is probably the best place.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you for stopping by the Fatcave.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Holding it down, giving us all the inside dope.
Yeah.
That is it for this episode of Fat Man on Batman. I have been Marc Bernardin. This is
David Collins.
You can find us at smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. See you soon.